it'll be messy, but.
Yeah, it's a little shorter now. I like it.
So glad that you're putting this super interesting stuff on.
I think maybe at the end I would.
Okay.
You have to wait for the end. Where's the end?
Right here.
Is the end now?
Yeah.
Oh, now? Okay. Hey, everybody. How are you doing? Tony loves it when I ask the guests when the listeners how they're doing because they can't respond. It drives them up a wall. I love it.
It doesn't bother me.
Okay, sure.
Like I've said, I encourage the guests to interact with us on the TV like they're watching Blue's Clues, like when you're a little kid, and you say it's in the corner, like just scream at your windshield. I'm doing great, Jimmy. Thanks. Sure. Well, you shouldn't be watching this while driving.
Listening.
Listening. Okay.
Yeah. We're just talking, man. No, there's nothing to see here.
I was in good buddy John Waterman's car yesterday. He's playing Cars 2 over the stereo. And I was like, oh, is there like a TV screen back? He's like, no, we just like to listen to it.
That's cute.
It's
John's
just
really
just
weird
the audio
guy.
from Cars 2 to entertain his children. So
I thought he'd be playing like old Karl Marx recordings or something.
no, he did have the Communist Manifesto. So I made a joke. I made a good joke.
I'm sure he did.
He had two yo-yos like in packages over in his like little side compartment thing, and then the Communist Manifesto. I said, "Hey, you got two yo-yos over here." He was like, "Yeah," and then I'm like, "And then you got the author of these books, two yo-yos here too."
Yeah, you got yo-yo
Karl Marx and Frederick Engels, couple of yo-yos. I got him.
You should have said, "Yeah, I got a couple of yo-yos over there, and you got the toys."
That's essentially what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's backwards though. No,
Look, man.
Okay.
Just let me do my humor. You do yours. I don't need the notes.
So, how was your week? Did anything special happen this week to you?
I went to SeaWorld with friend of the pod, Donnie, and his lovely family.
Yes, Donnie. We should have Donnie on. Actually.
We should have Donnie on.
He's in St. Augustine now.
He is, yeah. His daughter is hilarious and adorable. She kept...
He had a most wonderful shirt on that day.
Yeah.
The pinata
shirt that said I'd hit that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that for Donnie.
His daughter kept giving... She had her my doctor bag, and then she was giving me shots, and then she would go, oh, Band-Aid. And she'd go, I find it, and put a Band-Aid on me. And she'd go,
oh, nice.
Kitty cat. Like the Band-Aids had different animals on it.
God.
Yeah, that's how my daughter is. Band-Aids are toys for little kids. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like a regular thing.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
And they'll literally make them feel better, too. It's the craziest thing.
I saw this in action.
Yeah,
at one point,
wild.
she fell down and hit her knee while she was trying to run up. And there was like a big Cookie Monster statue, and people were taking pictures with it. And his daughter kept photobombing people and getting in their pictures. And at one point, she fell over and hit her knee, and she starts crying. And then her mom came and put a Band-Aid on her arm, which was not injured. And she was immediately like, go see Elmo. It was just like, makes him feel better.
Placebo in effect right there.
Placebo effect, yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
But Donnie and I were, doing boy stuff. We were going and riding roller coasters while the gals would relax in the shade or go, look at more of the animals and stuff, which I also saw some great animals that I enjoyed. But we went on 3 roller coasters. The first one that we go on, I keep my phone in my pocket. I'm wearing shorts. I just held on to my phone, while the roller coaster's going.
Like a smart person.
Yeah, with my smartphone.
Yeah.
And then the second one, I'm like still doing that because they have a compartment you can put your loose items in.
For the really smart people.
Yeah, but I was like, I don't need that crap. I'm not scared.
Yeah, of course not.
Then I get on, I get scared. We're going up, and the roller coaster is ticking up. I get genuinely terrified on these things. Like, I know that they're safe and nothing's going to happen to me, but I get scared.
Did you never see Final Destination 3, dude?
I have seen that, but that's
I'm
not real.
It happens. Well.
So I take my hands, I'm not thinking, I grab the shoulder things, and it's doing all these loop-de-loops and stuff, and I get off, phone nowhere to be found.
Nowhere.
Lost my phone.
Never found it.
I mean, I know where it is, kind of. I was able to zoom it in a little bit, but like not well enough for them to go and retrieve it for me. They're supposed to send me an email if they find it, but I already went and got another one. It's fine.
Yeah, I noticed the text.
4-year-old cell phone. I think probably the longest I've ever had a phone. So,
was that a special day in any other sense for you?
No.
Okay. I just had a buddy that celebrated an anniversary this week, and I thought
My sobriety anniversary was the Sunday before that.
oh wow, it was then.
Yes.
Oh, we just didn't celebrate till Friday. We celebrated.
My special group
That was a
I
big
go
deal.
to. Yeah, it was nice.
It was very nice. We have a really cool guest on today.
Indeed.
Very close to me. It's
A little bit further from me currently.
Yes. Monica's here. And Monica is my wife's mother. My wife who painted this room. My wife who gave birth to our daughter who grew up in this room. That girl's grandmother. A ton of connections here. What's up, Monica?
Hey, I'm doing good.
Thanks for coming today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
For being interested. Originally, you said when you wanted to come on or that you were going to do Fight Club.
Yes, I did.
And I thought that was pretty hilarious. And my wife also thought the same thing, but we were going to do it. But then you switched it to
Silver Linings Playbook.
And it turned out to be, I think, Tony's favorite movie to date on the podcast.
That is great.
I mean, we did our first episode with Midsommar.
Yeah.
Barry Lyndon is up there for me, but this
And I mean, Evelyn's movie was great.
movie delights me.
Evelyn's movie was great. And all the movies have been fun. I not to discourage any previous, guests or anything, but the text thread for the show this week was blowing up with very emotional reactions by our very own $2 Tony to this movie.
Oh, that's great.
It makes me cry.
It was quite adorable.
I know. It's got a lot of significance for me.
It was a very, I remember when it came out, it was a huge deal. And I remember this was kind of like the beginning of Jennifer Lawrence's
It was
major career. I mean, and Bradley Cooper was.
They said both of them. It was kind of like that's when they got popular after this movie.
Yeah, what was it? It was 2012.
It was.
Yes.
Which seems a little bit, I don't know. It seems like it was made before that because the video iPod's like a big deal in the show, in the movie. And the video iPod.
Just the iPod, not the video iPod.
Yeah, they're watching them dance on the video iPod. They're watching the old Fred Astaire movie when they're doing a dance.
You're right. Yeah.
And it's like that thing was pretty obsolete by 2012, I think.
Sure.
Right? Because the iPhone was like 08 or whatever. But anyway.
I think the movie is set in 2008 or 9. Because the Philadelphia Eagles season that they're talking about is that actual season.
And they reference I just put this together, the Phillies beating the Tampa Bay Rays in the World Series, which was 2008.
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay. So there you go. Man, I love it when they do that. When movies do that where they're just like a few years off from the current. It's so much harder to date a movie that's like a few years off than it is like it's 100 years off or whatever.
Yeah, I thought the Fight Club was. I went back and watched it. And I'm like, why the hell did I say Fight Club?
Yeah. Well, what was your thinking at first?
Because of the ending and his alter ego thing. I thought that was so cool because I think a lot of us have the alter ego, but then when I watched it, I'm like, this is so violent. I can't do this movie. So I did my other favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both very, very different movies.
Completely different.
Well, but they both deal with mental health.
Well, they do, yes, which is why I like both of them.
They both have kind of a central love story between two people who are both struggling with mental health.
Yes.
I think they're approached from two very different perspectives, though.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, one's just super. I mean, Fight Club is a bit of a masculine perspective.
I know.
Right? And
it
it's
is.
it's kind of almost that, that book is written for young men, I feel like, that's the whole thing. But
right.
It was just, I don't know. I was kind of looking forward to it because it was such an interesting choice. But Silver Linings Playbook, not only was it like a good choice for something like a topic discussion. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things about this is that I get to watch movies I haven't seen in a while. Like it gives me a reason to watch a movie that's good. And I don't know, man. I had a good time watching it. And I think what we're going to do this week, we're going to kind of go with, because of there's a lot of connection in this movie, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about it.
About the movie?
Yeah, about the movie. Yeah,
okay.
Because Tony has probably pages of notes.
I took a lot of notes on this.
you?
I'm
Yeah.
not going to go through them exhaustively, but there's a lot of stuff that I'd love to get your opinion on. And
Yeah.
we can break down and kind of talk about the implications in terms of what it has to say about mental health, what it has to say about relationships.
Can I tell you why I picked the movie?
100%.
Yes, please.
So back in 2012, I had moved back to Tampa and I was not doing well. And Zach, my son, came home from school and it's like, Mom, there's this movie you have to watch with me. So he was the one that suggested it to me.
Really?
And I came after we watched it. I looked at him. I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And then I said, "I just went to see a psychiatrist," and she said she thought I was bipolar. And he's like, "Mom, Teresa and I have known that for years."
Dang.
That's funny.
So
shout out Zach.
I know,
That's
I know,
awesome.
and shout out Dr.
We
Stedman.
love Zach. Zach's a killer uncle.
Well, and he's a movie person like you too.
He is.
Big time.
He is. He's just, my experience with Zach he's been a really cool uncle to the kids. He's probably the best gift giver I've ever known.
Oh yeah.
It's a little upsetting.
It's an underrated skill.
Right? It's impossible to keep up with that guy. He's so good at it. I love it. And with the kids, it's really cool. I love Zach. I didn't know that story. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to say it was so significant because he came home. I hadn't heard of the movie, but the timing of it and everything, it was perfect.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I had my own kind of experience with this movie when it came out, and rewatching it, I've realized that I think it dramatically impacted my life in maybe not the best way, because I was 19 when I saw it, and I think it made me want to seek out mentally ill women for relationships. Because I was just very attracted to Jennifer Lawrence, and I found like her whole persona in this movie, she's kind of like, you know, she's going through something very difficult. She's having this like complex grief over the loss of her husband. And I was just like, I'm going to find someone that matches my craziness because I struggle with mental health as well.
Right.
And then so I would then interpret, you know, someone else having a challenge of that sort as being a green flag and be like, this is great. We're going to be this, you know, perfect, beautiful, mentally ill couple together.
Right. Yeah, I could see that.
And then chaos would ensue.
Oh, yes, it would. Especially untreated.
Yeah, exactly. But it did, like watching it, I was like brought back to that. And it's a very magical film, I think.
I think it is too, definitely.
It does kind of mislead though, right?
Okay.
In that regard, that
there's a happy ending.
That two crazies kind of figure it out together.
Well, they're kind of on their healing journey together.
Yeah,
you know?
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, healing journey.
I think your
and
experience
you're in treatment, or you've been treated for it.
Yeah, I think Tony's experience is very relatable to a lot of guys. I think that Jennifer Lawrence, looking like she does, but also that type of person was very attractive to a lot of guys. Like, and that is just something that like drew them to this picture and drew them to that idea. And we kind of already had that. I don't know if that movie instilled that in you. You know, I think attractive, crazy people are sought after.
Definitely.
You know? And yeah, I mean, whether or not the two of them coming together and like them against the world, but they did have therapy, and it's unconventional therapy. But I don't want to go out of order. I like that Tony had the idea to sort of really get into it. So let's get started, man. Good. Tony, give it to us, buddy.
Well, let me start by saying this is another movie that's part of our Italian symposium. This is another movie with Bradley Cooper playing an Italian guy, because we previously discussed Limitless.
And the opening monologue certainly gives to that. The Sundays with the family, the things, the fazol or whatever. Fragile, whatever. Yeah, okay.
I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, his name is, they call him Pat, but it's like Patricio.
Patricio Solitano.
Yes.
Jr.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everything the mom cooks is all very Italian, and it's all very Italian. And
he has this opening monologue where he talks. He's like, "You kidding me? Sundays are my favorite day." He's reading this letter that he's written to his estranged wife, Nikki. Mm-hmm. And I've also read the book that this was based on, and the movie is structured very differently. I'll say that.
Really?
The book, I think his mental illness is presented as a little bit more severe, and for the entire length of the book, basically up until like the last couple pages, he's trying to recall what happened that caused him and Nikki to be separated.
Oh, really? He doesn't realize.
He's having these delusions about them getting back together, and he has this whole thing with Tiffany where he thinks if they win this dance contest, he's going to get Nikki back. And then his mom allows him to watch the wedding videotape, and that brings back this memory of him beating her adultery partner half to death.
Oh, wow. It's not realized until the end.
Yes,
wow.
Exactly. He has this kind of like blank spot in his memory. But
yeah, definitely very different than the movie.
That's revealed a lot more quickly in this movie. We see him meeting with he's in the hospital. We see him taking medication. He's been in the hospital for 8 months, and his mother comes to pick him up. The court has given her permission, but he's leaving against medical advice, which is
AMA.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes.
Buddy.
So the doctors are like, we think
and they're
that you
picking
should
up old
stick
Chris
around
Tucker
here.
on the way out.
Chris Tucker, who plays his friend Danny, hops in the car. Chris Tucker is obsessed with his hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You, I notice, have gone with the new mustache look.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
look
know.
like
I saw that today. Wow.
Yeah.
maybe a longshoreman
Yeah.
type of vibe.
Well, what's
Lumberjack.
funny is I was doing it just to be kind of have some fun, and I've gotten a bunch of mixed reviews about it. But my wife, when she saw it, she like pleasantly gasped uncontrollably, and so
There you go.
Wow,
it's installed.
that's worth it.
The only thing that may take it is that it's hard to make a dive mask seal to your face when you have facial hair.
Yeah.
And I'm going diving next week and a lot over the next, but I think that I've found a solution that I won't have to get rid of it. So
Good.
yeah, stay tuned, folks, for the
The stash saga will continue.
Yes, very well done. Thank you.
So it's already kind of setting up this thing of and he's working out in the hospital as well, but his mom's taking him out early, and we very quickly see that there's some problems here because she finds out that Danny wasn't supposed to leave the hospital, and Pat grabs the steering wheel, and they almost get in what would be a horrible car wreck, like in the first 3 minutes of the movie.
Yep. And she's like losing it. You can see this real like weird relationship between him and his mom and all this. Yeah. Right off the gate.
And if we look at, the knowing that he is bipolar, he's at this point in what you would call like a hypomanic state.
Right.
He's not in full on mania, but he's making like pretty wild decisions, and he's on this kind of like extremely driven path toward this pretty absurd goal of reuniting with his wife. And that's kind of, if you want to look at the overall arc of the movie, it's this story of him pursuing that goal and then ultimately realizing that that's not what he wants.
Yeah.
Which I enjoy a lot. I think that's it just reflects the way that life takes you in these different directions, and ultimately what you think is going to make you happy may not make you happy in the end.
True. I moved back to Tampa, and like I was saying, and I bought this franchise. All my money, put into this thing, didn't do any research, had this just magnificent pie in the sky. I'm going to, sign up all these businesses, which I did, but I didn't bother to see that it was a big like Ponzi scheme that I was in. So I lost so it was that big grandiose idea, that
Sort of manic kind
but you know what? It took me on a different path and a better one, like you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I think that's an important thing, is to like have gratitude for even decisions that ended up being themselves misguided can bring you to a spot where you're happy with the outcome and where you find a silver lining.
Ooh.
Exactly.
Which is Pat's whole philosophy
Yes.
in this movie, is that he's like, God will give you a silver lining if you just keep trying and you keep pushing and stuff.
Yeah.
And he has this attitude that's like very, common to people with bipolar or with other, mental illnesses of this sort, where he's just like, I can't have any negativity and anything like that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not good. You're not being realistic.
Yeah, and you're not balanced. Yeah, life is balance.
But
Right.
it is also like, positivity is great.
Yeah, but do you ever notice that his bipolar in this movie there's never a crash. Like even when he's being negative, he's still very manic seeming.
He goes into what you would call a mixed state at points. Though.
Okay.
So
Right.
a mixed state is when you're presenting with dysphoria. So you're feeling very bad and upset, but your mood is
High
still
energy.
elevated to the
Okay.
point of So that these scenes where he just bursts into tears and he starts crying and screaming.
So to better understand bipolar isn't just like, sometimes there's this really funny line in this, the show Dave, Little Dickie's TV show. His hype man is this like, you know, like just weed head guy that's like, you know, like a rapper type guy that's always hanging around. I forget the character's name, but they find out in one of the episodes he's a bipolar guy.
Yeah.
And his explanation is of bipolar. They're like, what do you mean you're bipolar? He's like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel crazy and sometimes I feel lazy.
Yeah.
And that's like what he
that is like
describes it
perfect.
as.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though to think that it's not necessarily just like your energy goes up and down, but it's like your general like take on life. You're either in a very optimistic state or a very pessimistic state. You can still be high energy.
Yes. So there's
just
also
destructive.
There's two types.
Okay.
So bipolar 1, you have full-on manic episodes, which I think that Pat is bipolar 1 because he has full manic episodes, then he has periods of like hypomania as well, where he's not in a full manic state, but he is like still on this kind of thing, and he's irritable,
running with the garbage bag.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has a hilarious character trait where people will tell him things in confidence, and he immediately repeats it to the person that he's not supposed to say it to.
Yeah.
Where he's like, "Mom, you just told me that he's bookmaking," like that sort of thing. Bipolar 2.
What do you mean? You told me not to tell anything. What do you mean?
You just said that to me outside. Bipolar 2 requires you to have depressive episodes, which is where you're like can't get out of bed type of thing.
Gotcha.
So he is bipolar 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he's home now.
He's home.
What do we
He says he won't take his meds because they make him foggy.
And there's this weird uncle cousin character hanging around.
Randy.
What is fucking deal with this guy?
Randy keeps taking money from Robert De Niro, who portrays Pat's dad, Pat Sr.
This dude, okay, I
Randy's
recognize him from
awful
something
guy.
else too.
He's really mean.
I recognize him from another thing. I couldn't put my finger on it, but
I think he's a rival bookie as part of it because he at one point they're betting and he's like, Pat, I want to take Pat's book, meaning his clients.
There are very few scenes that the house is in that Randy's not in. Mm-hmm. Like it seems like if they were shooting at the house, Randy was there, which is crazy, except for like the middle of the night crap.
Yeah.
You know. There's always an outside character when the family's together. It's either Randy or the cop or the brother, which is part of the family, but he feels like the family to me is the mom, the dad, and Pat.
Yeah.
And then like the brother seems like and we'll get to that eventually.
And then you got the guy knocking at the door. Can I ask you some questions about the kid? Can I ask you questions about mental health?
There's a deleted scene at the alternate ending for the movie that reveals what that kid's deal is, which is that he struggles with his own mental health and he wants advice from Pat about it. And Robert De Niro kicks him out of the house for wearing a Vikings shirt on YouTube. I watched it last night.
Yeah, that was this is one of the saddest things about the death of DVD is the deleted scenes being lost, man. They used to be right there. I used to watch all of those.
I have a lot of memories of waking up with DVD music playing because I've like passed out drunk on the floor in my friend's house. And I'm just being baked by the sun, and it's just going like,
lots of memories.
It's like the Austin Powers theme song is looping over and over again.
But I remember Donnie Darko's it's a rainstorm, it was a thunderstorm.
Yeah,
was their menu.
And part of Randy's thing is that he's a Cowboys fan. And he's like, the Cowboys are America's team, and Robert De Niro's like, it's Philadelphia, Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, that's such a typical person too that lives up north.
Yeah,
Pennsylvania. In my experience, I knew people that were in Pennsylvania and around the Eagles fans and were huge Dallas Cowboys fans. The most annoying shit ever. Like, why?
What is that about?
That's weird.
Just being a contrarian?
Well, something about the Dallas Cowboys appeals to a certain type of brain, like the whole like. This is America's team. You know, Dallas Cowboys spends more money than they're one of the biggest sports franchises on the planet. Manchester United, Real Madrid, the two soccer teams. Obviously, soccer is the biggest sport in the world, like by far. Which is weird. It's boring. But but it's more people in the world have access to it than So
I think that's why soccer is so big, is because you can play it very easily.
All you need is a ball. You don't even need the goals. I mean, you can do anything for goals. But then the Yankees and then the Dallas Cowboys. That's like the top 4 in the world. But and I think that just appealed to Flash, the whole thing. I know people love that.
But they set it up as like a cowboy versus Ben Franklin. I'm a huge Ben Franklin head.
Who isn't?
I know.
Some people don't like him.
Really?
Yeah, he did some strange stuff.
Well,
he went to France to engage with sex workers for the rest of his life.
All of the forefathers got some skeletons, so But I'm pretty sure that Ben Franklin. I mean, I don't know. I thought he was pretty, universally beloved.
Yeah, he did the experiment with the key.
Yeah, that's what he talks about in the movie. Yeah. He flew out. He stood out in the rain with a kite.
Which he was not risking electrocution. I looked this up because they had one string, the metal string that was connecting the kite down to this like jar that was going to capture the electricity. And then they had a fabric string that they were holding, so they weren't risking getting. They were in a lightning storm, but it wasn't like if the key got struck, he was going to go.
Oh, he wasn't holding the key.
No.
The key was
was attached to a kite that was flying up.
Well, why was he holding a kite at all then?
He wanted to verify that lightning was the same thing that was electricity, the phenomenon of electricity, which had been observed already by other people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
man.
I went on a whole thing because
the more you know, dude.
I was stoned through all of high school, so I don't remember like basic U.S. history facts. Then I'll go read about it and I'll be like, "That's so cool," and everybody's like, "Yeah, I already knew that because I paid attention." But also, this movie it appeals to me in so many ways. I was about to say like that the vibe of a cluttered, chaotic Italian household just like brings me back.
Nice.
To any time that I would spend time with my mom's side of the family, which is
really, I
love my dad's side of the family, but my mom's side is the one that's I've always like engaged, related to, and enjoyed.
It's like a lot of people
more. Talking
over each other,
yes,
good smells,
and eating, and like really wild arguments. People like talking with their hands, and they're arguing about something totally pointless.
Yeah,
and that sort of thing.
I love that about the Italian and even like the Irish, just like the bigger families that people just aren't like afraid to like argue and disagree with each other and then and hug it out and like they'll be like hot tempered arguing and then eating at the same table 10 minutes later.
Yeah,
I love
as long as the drinking isn't over the top, because I've had many fights. We've had that kind of Irish Catholic family. But you add in the alcohol, all bets are off. It's going to be somebody's going to get hurt. Things will get stolen. Somebody might get fondled. You just don't know what's going to happen. It's like crazy.
So my dad has 12 siblings, Irish Catholic family. So there's 13 kids.
Jeez.
How many of those do you think are alcoholics?
14.
10. What?
They grew up in a household without their parents just didn't really drink, and it's turned out that way.
Nature versus nurture there.
Yeah, I think it really has to do with that. Is that my grandparents on my dad's
That's
side were
so
these
funny.
lovely, nurturing people.
That's amazing.
And took really good care of the kids. And
that's really funny.
Just didn't have any trauma to
My family have
the
exact opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I had always, but then when I got sober and got in recovery, like. I would meet other people that were dealing with their own personal recovery journey and grew up in families that were like that. And they, because I would be convinced that it was a genetic thing. From my personal experience growing up, I was convinced that like alcoholism and drug addiction were very obviously genetic disorders.
Sure.
But then I've lived with people, and a very close friend of mine, one of my spearing buddies, man, and no one in his family has
pretty
ever
amazing.
struggled with alcoholism or addiction, and he is in recovery for
you do you hear stories a lot of that.
It's weird
people,
and how different people's experience can be.
But my family, no, all bets were off. Like I said, somebody's going to get hurt. There's all kind of fighting. I think it's very sweet, this movie, where, like you said, they stick together. Nobody's abandoning anybody.
Yeah. Like even Robert De Niro seems to struggle with it a little bit, but he's still never completely, like cutting
struggle
off.
with what?
His son being a bit crazy, but and it obviously we see like right off the bat that if you're familiar with it at all, that Robert De Niro has his own stuff going on. He's OCD or whatever.
Rage problems. They say that he was banned from the Eagles Stadium for beating people up.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a long list of people.
Well,
the old Eagles Stadium was famous for having the only stadium in America that actually has its own jail.
Oh,
The vet. It's not the new stadium. The new one may or may not. But the Philly Eagles Stadium was famous for being a dangerous place to go, and they actually had. There's a jail. There's a courthouse. Like you could get sentenced under there. There was judge. It was like a whole thing. There was so much
at the
violence.
stadium.
Yeah, there was so much violence that happened at the vet that they put in an entire
that's hilarious.
Municipalities. Fucking it's crazy. Down in like the bowels of the jail of the stadium or whatever. It's famous old like Philly folklore about this place. Yeah,
for sure. And that's that detail about his dad is revealed in this scene with his therapist. Right before that, there's a scene that I want to talk about where he's reading all these books for his wife's syllabus for school.
Yeah.
And he finishes reading Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. And he very accurately observes that the whole book is like, oh, what's going to happen? Is this guy going to pull it together and get in this relationship? And what happens in that book is he does, and he survives the war, and then he ends up with his girl, and then she dies in like the last 3 pages.
Dude. The first time I saw this movie was so happy because that is how I reacted.
Yeah.
I lost my shit. And, nobody warns you about this book. Ernest Hemingway,
it should be called A Farewell to Love.
Dude, my relationship with Ernest Hemingway was always like he was one of these old-timey writers that was pretty avant-garde, though, with the way that he would tell stories. But nobody warns you that it's the last page, bro. That the Farewell to Arms completely pulls the rug out from under you. And I was explaining it to Teresa that it's basically a war novel. Yeah. And it goes through the full arc of this beautiful tale, and he escapes it. It's a totally fine story. It could just end. He probably wouldn't have, gotten all the notoriety he got if it had, though, But it is the very last page, and the last line is, and he walked home in the rain.
Yeah.
And it's
back to the hotel.
Yeah, and it's just like I remember
it's
frantically.
It's a funny prank to make people care this much about these characters and be like, oh, by the way, she died.
Yeah, and the kid,
and the baby's stillborn.
And then he freaks out, right? And he wakes his parents up at 4 a.m.
And he throws the book. He throws the book out the window. Yeah. Which Peter, who we were just talking about, and I had a thing in high school where we would throw CDs out the window of the car. Where if someone was playing some music and you're like, this sucks, you would eject it and just throw it out the window.
That's funny.
So people would buy CDs and we would discard them.
You probably had the window down, though, right?
Yeah, we weren't breaking the window.
Him breaking it in the house.
So that's another kind of early look at what's going on with him mental health wise. And this happens before he goes to the doctor and says, oh, I have bipolar disorder. And we find that out. But it's he wakes his parents up to rant at them about Ernest Hemingway.
I always wondered, though, if the guy that wrote this had the similar internal reaction to that book and wrote this scene to live out what he wanted to do.
Quite possibly.
You know what I mean?
Matthew Quick.
Yeah. I just felt so relatable. I would have done that the first time I read it. I always loved it. I love that about this movie. That Farewell to Arms thing.
You got to throw a book pretty hard to chuck it out to break a window.
Yeah.
But maybe a newer window. That was an old house.
Yeah.
Brittle single pane glass.
He goes to therapy. His doctor, Dr. Patel, is one of my favorite characters in the movie.
Mine too. Yeah.
He displays maybe some poor professional boundaries later on in the film, but he's great. Mm-hmm. And he also does this thing which I would also not recommend clinically.
Oh, God.
Where he plays this song that's a trigger for
by
Pat.
Sherry Moore.
By Stevie Wonder, which is
very good song.
Pat's wedding song.
Who would do that for real,
I know.
Well, he says he does it to see if he's still triggered by it. He's like, that's a risky game.
Yeah.
That kind of backfired there. It almost got some people hurt.
He does halfway tear apart the office.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Pat does a lot of stuff where he'll do something and then he'll immediately feel bad about it and apologize for it.
Yeah.
Which is very relatable to me. But he reminds Dr. Patel what happened, which is that he caught his wife, Nikki, cheating with his history professor. And a week before the incident, he told the police that his wife and the history professor were embezzling from the school, which was a bipolar delusion. And so we kind of have the setup here of what's going on with Pat. He is mentally ill. He beat this history professor halfway to death after discovering them in the shower together.
Yeah.
And
you should probably go.
Yeah. The history professor says you should probably go, and he beats him up.
And he keeps hearing that song even when it's not playing too. Yeah.
I wonder if that is a delusion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's why he has to ask the secretary.
No, not the song. If the professor, so he walks in, the memory is that he walks in, and he's very vividly describing the scene, and he goes in, and his wife's cheating on him, and the guy that his wife's cheating on him with says, you should probably go, which in my brain, in my lizard brain or whatever, justifies an ass beating. So now I'm more on Bradley Cooper's team even though I know he's crazy, this guy deserves it for saying that thing. So I wonder if they're just giving you that, if it's a real thing that the guy said or not.
Sure. It's kind of, he's an unreliable narrator. It's left up to your interpretation.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, because it sort of justifies it.
Yeah. So now we have this is the impasse between him and Nikki, is that she was unfaithful to him, and that also he committed, felonious assault on her adultery partner.
And she stays with the history teacher, right? She's still with him?
I'm not sure whether that's his.
They sort of infer it, but
they do.
You never really.
The dad at one point says, like, she could be with that guy.
Yeah, and she comes around later in the film and has no one with her. So
at the end,
she looks like she might be hoping to get back with Pat.
They keep it pretty vague. They keep that whole thing pretty vague. I think she's supposed to stay sort of a mysterious character, but
she jogs up. He jogs up to the high school and approaches the principal. The principal is terrified of him.
Yes, it's very funny.
She says, "You lost some weight," and he's like, "Thank you so much." And he goes to hug her, and she's like, "Don't touch me!"
Screaming.
Right.
She was just trying to make a compliment. He was trying to be, best buds with her.
And then he runs into his friend Ronnie, who's also one of my favorite characters in the movie.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of really great movies over the years too.
I want to look up who that actor's name is.
Yeah, I was going to say, who is that? I love him.
Yeah, so when he was a young man, he was in Carlito's Way with Al Pacino.
Ooh.
And he's like showing Al Pacino around. He always is sort of like this hapless sidekick type character. I forget his name. He's an American Gangster too. He's Russell Crowe's partner.
John Ortiz.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, John Ortiz.
He's Russell Crowe's partner who gets drug addicted and ends up overdosing. He dies. He's died a few times in movies, but he's always very. To me, he's always like a super. Not relatable isn't the word, but like you kind of feel sorry for the guy or whatever.
Yeah, and in this, he's henpecked. Basically, his wife is like.
Yeah,
running his life and very insistent on things. And when he's happy to see Pat, because he's like, I need somebody to talk to, because he's like,
and my crazy friend will get how I am going to break down. And he's wanting to share all this, that scene where he describes the pressures of his life and he like puts his hands around his throat.
Oh, yeah.
That's
which is at dinner. And that's pretty much, there's a scene shortly right after this where this officer, Keogh, shows up, warns Pat and says there's a restraining order and I'm on your case and I'm going to be keeping an eye on you. We see Dr. Patel warning him to take his meds, and he's been invited to dinner at Ronnie's house. He's like, I think I'm going to wear this jersey. He's like, what jersey? He's like, Deshaun Jackson. He goes, Deshaun Jackson is the man. Dr. Patel is an Eagles fan also.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we see that later.
Yeah, I mean they're kind of giving you the vibe. Everyone in Philly's into.
That's so fun.
The sports, yeah. That's the thing about sports is they're very, it's a community, man.
Yeah.
And everyone knows like the backstory. There's that whole scene where, Jennifer Lawrence goes off and she connects all.
She did her research.
Yeah.
She hates football, but she did all this research.
Yeah, which when we get to that scene, I got some funny notes on that scene. But
speaking of Jennifer Lawrence, she makes her debut in this next scene.
Opening line.
They're having this dinner, and she shows up to dinner. Veronica and Ronnie, it seems like, are trying to set up Pat and Tiffany, which is such a chaotic and crazy thing for them to be doing.
Yeah. And they're talking about, so her husband died. Oh, when did he die? Oh, how did he die? And then she walks in and says,
how did who die?
Yeah, how did who die? That's a really great fucking introduction.
This right before that, Ronnie is also, he does the thing that you're talking about where he's like talking to Pat. He's whispering in this other room.
Yeah.
And he's like, we just redid the den. I'm thinking of redoing it again. Which, this is like a type of person who's just constantly renovating their home.
Yeah. Trying to fix the outer and not the inner. Yeah.
I can live in a shack.
Right.
I really don't care.
Me too.
Yeah.
Which is maybe not, there's probably some happy medium between that.
There is a happy medium.
I think I'm there. I like working on my house.
I'm sure you do.
I enjoy working on my house. I think it's fun.
But you don't overdo it. You're not like...
No. Man.
You don't redo the den and then redo the den again.
Right.
You know?
No, it's obvious that they're a financially successful household that's got no emotional growth going on.
And he says the market's down, so he's spending a lot of money that he maybe isn't bringing in. But he goes.
But a lot of people are like that, the whole material thing, and I got to fix my house up, and I got to do this, and never looking at themselves, you know.
Portraying affluence, portraying like, oh, we're successful and we're doing really well, and. Not to skip ahead, but Tiffany, Jennifer Lawrence, has a line later where she's talking to Pat and she goes, "We're not like them."
Yeah.
Right.
We're not fake.
That's the thing about...
And this is me 19 years old, like, she's right, dude. I'm different.
Yeah. Well, so immediately, Tiffany is confident about herself.
Sure.
Like she's like in your face, like, I am this way and it's okay for me to be this way.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a very attractive character. Just like in a person.
I love Ronnie's line where he's talking to Pat. They're whispering, but right before Tiffany walks in, he goes, "I'm not okay. Don't tell anyone."
Yeah.
He goes, it's like I'm. And I try to breathe, and it's just.
Yeah, he puts his hand over his
Oh, poor guy.
And he goes, "It's okay. You can't be happy all the time." And Pat's like, "What are you talking about?" Because Pat is on a thing where he's like, "Yeah, I am going to be happy all the time. I'm toxic positivity." But Tiffany walks in. She's like, "How did who die?" The camera's kind of follows her as she walks up to him.
Yeah.
She is gorgeous.
Yes, she is.
One of the prettiest ladies ever. And there's this thing, her eyes kind of dart around and then they lock onto Pat. It's like something is kind of off. And he's like, "You look nice." "Oh, I'm not flirting with you. I got my wife, We're going to get back together. We're going to be better than ever." "How did Tommy die?" And Ronnie's behind him, like shaking his head. Mm-hmm. Tommy is her husband who has passed away.
Yep. Who we find out about how he died. You kind of assume that he died in line of duty.
Yeah.
The whole time, which is wrong. He died, on the side of the road. He died how Caddy died.
Actually. I know.
I made a note of that.
I did too. I was like, "Oh gosh, trigger warning. I better tell James."
No, that's pretty interesting. I thought
in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah. The highway she mentions though is a super busy. It's like a 270, 76, which is like another 6-lane highway. I actually have a good story from 76.
Go for it.
I used to drive from Westchester, Pennsylvania to Philadelphia almost every single day, which is like an hour and some change, to procure narcotics for myself.
No, James.
Yeah. And so I wonder how deep I should go into the story. So I was on one of those trips and I was using Caddy's car. It was a Cadillac. It was Caddy's Caddy. It was an old 2008. And all the electrical had gone bad on the dashboard. So you couldn't tell how fast you were going. You couldn't tell. All the lights were blinking all the time. But apparently no one was putting oil in it. And I was driving it way more than anyone was aware of because I was taking all these trips in secret. So the engine seized up coming back from Philadelphia. And I had some, narcotics on me. And I called the tow truck and I'm like, "Okay, I got everything figured out." So also at this time in my life, I was being sought by Virginia Police Department in Roanoke for some felony warrants. Yeah. So I had some international warrants out for my arrest, and I could not interact with the police in any shape or form. And they pulled over to just be friendly and help out, and asked me for my ID, and promptly arrested me afterwards.
No,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I had a bunch of these narcotics on me, and I was trying to figure out what to do with them, and I put them in my butt.
What?
Yeah. I put them in my butt.
I just would listen to a podcast about foreign objects in the butt.
But see, I didn't.
On Dax Shepard. You ever listen to Armchair Anonymous?
Yeah.
I was listening to that on the way so I wouldn't be nervous. I'm like,
I'm glad to know I'm not alone. But so I
could be on that podcast.
I didn't get them up far enough up my butt.
Oh, no.
So when we're at the station in Philly, I'm waiting to get go wherever the cop's doing all the paperwork. I can feel them coming out of my butt, and I get put in the back.
Beginner's mistake.
I get the cop. The cop convince him to put my cuffs in the front. You know, I'm just like, hey man, dude, I'm chilling. Can I just get cuffed in the front? He cuffs me in the front. And when we get in his car to go to where I'll be staying until I get picked up or whatever, where I know I'm going to get searched, like really searched.
Yeah.
I'm in the back of his car, and I reach in and I grab at the narcotics, and I try to swallow them. But so the way that they keep dope on the streets in Philly from like freezing in their pockets is they have these wax baggies that are folded 3 times and then they're in plastic, so it's a very stiff square.
Yeah,
and I couldn't.
It had to be uncomfortable.
I couldn't swallow it. I started choking so bad that the cop pulled over and was like, "You're not fucking throwing." He thought I was getting sick. I was very obviously a drug addict. I looked like crap and all this, and so. He swings the door open. He's like, you come out and you throw up right here. And I'm sitting there and I'm yakking, but I know that if the dope comes out, I'll catch a felony. And he's sitting there staring at me like, what the fuck is going on? I'm trying to throw up, but not trying to let this out of my fucking throat. And I can feel it. It's like lodged in my esophagus.
Oh, God.
And then it occurs to me that it's covered in truffle butter. Like my ass juice is all over all of this shit. But
all right, I'm submitting you for this other podcast.
So I start breathing real slow. And I figure out Yeah. So I realized, but I just start breathing real slow, and I guess it went just damper enough that I could get air in and out. And the whole rest of the drive to the facility, I had this pack. It was 3 dope bags lodged in my esophagus all the way through strip search and everything into the cell, where I threw it up and then immediately snorted it all and got my last good nights of sleep before I did a year of time. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's a story.
That was, for a long time I would tell that story, and it was the last time I ever did heroin. This is the story of the last time I ever did heroin. Unfortunately, it wasn't the last time I ever did heroin. There was a whole nother few months after that, but yeah, it was a pretty wild story. Like,
wow. How did your ass taste?
I don't, no comment.
You liked it. It was good.
It was all just such a horrible experience, and there were so many fucked up things that happened really close together.
Yeah.
That was it was just super intense. But I will say, I immediately thought it was funny afterwards. I immediately was like in the jail cell, like high on the dope, and was like, man, that's gonna make a good fucking, Well, there's another thing. So the next morning, because I was in holding in downtown Philly for a night before I went to Montgomery County, where I had to sit for like a month, which actually I was not cellmates but pod mates with Bill Cosby. Was in that same jail at that same time. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
did you see him?
No, he was like, but it was, everyone knew he was there. And we shared a judge. We had the same judge because I was being extradited. So I was in like a special pod. They had no charges on me in Philly. They were only holding me for Virginia. So I was sitting in like a segregated pod or whatever.
What would you say if you walked by him in the hallway?
Yeah. It's the pudding man. Yeah. I don't know. At that point, it was all still up in the air of what was actually happening. It was like the very beginning of all of it.
Before he had 70 people accusing him of this.
There was not this whole like windfall of obvious, so there was still like a lot of question. And I mean, people in Philly, there's still some people that, deny all that. But anyway, so the cop was really cool that was in the jail. He was like, you're fixing to go away for a minute. The charges I had were really bad. So he's like, I got you some breakfast from Wawa. And he brought me like a breakfast sandwich and a coffee. Wow. And I went to get up from the bed, and the bag of dope had actually cut my chode really bad. So the area between my butt hole
it's not called
and my
your
balls,
chode.
that's what I call it. Taint, chode, gooch. What do you call it?
Gooch, taint.
Gooch, okay.
Taint or
Anyway, I crippled
Taint your
I
ass,
can't believe
taint
I'm
your balls.
even in this conversation, but it's okay.
Well, you know, we
I'm
keep it real
laughing.
here
I'm
at the Jimmy Spice
laughing.
Show. And so I go to get up and I'm like, and I fall over from the pain. And then he gives me, and my throat is also cut up, so I can't enjoy the sandwich. That's
Your
my
both
last
ends
good-
are having a bad
Ouch.
time.
That last bag of
Ouch.
dope it really gave it to me, dude. Really whooped my ass. But anyway, that was quite the
That
tangent.
is crazy.
I was wondering if that story was ever going to come up, and it comes
Well,
up while
just-
Monica's here.
That's okay. I told you
Open book.
I told you the podcast I was listening to on the way here, so it kind of is just
I'm glad
fitting.
we're comfortable enough with each other to
Yeah,
have.
yeah. I was listening. The craziest thing I ever did in Philadelphia is I was living in New Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia. I was married to Zach's dad, and I was a mess. And talk about manic. So I'm driving to the airport. I have to fly down to Florida. I was going back and forth with the job. I'm late. I hand my keys to the bell, or what do you call the guy outside that checks your.
Valet?
Yeah, I said, okay, here's my phone number. I'm going to call you, and you're going to tell me where my car's parked. And I just gave him my car. And you know what? When I called him, he told me I left it on,
Oh, really? So he didn't take.
Yeah, I
Okay,
gave
well,
him
that's
some
nice.
money. I just hope for the best. But talk about just living on the edge all the time,
Yeah.
you know, craziness. Yeah.
Where were we?
I have no
Yeah,
idea.
where were we?
So the friend with the pressure, they're at dinner.
They're at dinner.
She does not want to be there. Tiffany.
But I do think, in retrospect, watching this, she immediately kind of takes a shine to Pat.
You noted
Yes.
that in the text, and I definitely agree.
I
She
do.
gives him this incredibly seductive look because they're like, "We're gonna go on a tour. We're gonna go see the house," and she goes, "Let's go see the house," and she like looks over her shoulder at him.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I turn into a cartoon wolf. My heart is visibly pounding out of my chest. My tongue unrolls like a giant carpet roll.
Now, is this because of how she is, her tendencies, you think, or do you think she's genuinely attracted to him? Because she is
That's a good point.
struggling with like
She's
you
having
know,
Promiscuity.
exactly. And
Yeah, I wondered about that. Was it him or just another person?
I sort
I
of
think
noticed.
the fact that she does try to sleep with him that night might mean that it's just that there's a guy there and she's just after men.
Well, I did sort of notice in a couple scenes, like at the dancing, and when they're at the hotel, and there's another scene I can't, where Bradley Cooper walks through a group of people and women turn, like they sort of show him being
How
attractive.
tall is he?
I don't know, but I'm saying that he maybe being, I mean, obviously is an attractive person, but maybe.
6'1".
Oh wow, yeah. So I mean,
He's in good shape. He's been doing calisthenics. Yeah.
and he's Bradley Cooper, you know, but you don't always like point to the obviousness of how attractive somebody can be unless you're trying to prove a point,
Yeah.
you know, and I feel like, I don't know, I felt it in a couple scenes that he was like a noticeably, you know, attractive guy.
Just stud. The dinner scene is fantastic. They start bonding over different medications that they've
That's
been
one
on.
of my favorite scenes, that whole thing. Yeah, lithium and
what?
lithium and Seroquel.
what day is
yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great scene when they're
Well, which brought me to think, you know, because we mentioned earlier Bradley Cooper is in recovery from that type of thing, and this was early on in his journey from that, from what I understand. So he does understand that kind of talk very well. It seemed pretty natural. Like,
Sure.
yeah, he's an actor and everything, but
it did to both of them.
yeah, it also seemed like, you know, they kind of did. They were looking forward to that scene.
Right. I love that.
And he got sober in 2004.
Oh wow.
So he was 8 years in at this point. But
Wow.
the dinner scene, Veronica stands up and Tiffany stands up. She's like, "I want to go. Are you going to walk me home?" And he goes, "You have poor social skills. You have a problem." And she's like, "I have a problem. You say more inappropriate things than appropriate things. You scare people." But they end up.
That is good dialogue. I enjoyed that thoroughly.
Good chemistry there.
Yes, they have incredible chemistry throughout this
Yeah,
movie,
they
which I
do.
do think he's way older than her.
Yeah. How much do you think?
She's 22 and he's 35 in this movie.
Oh.
In this movie,
Yeah.
and in real life too.
Yeah, in real life.
Oh. Okay.
I don't know how
didn't know
old
it
the
was that
characters
much
are.
of a difference.
I would assume that she's maybe supposed to be a little bit older
I
in the
think
movie
so.
because she's been married for 3 years.
Yeah.
That is exactly the age
exactly.
difference between my wife and I.
13 years?
And that's when we met. I was
wow.
35 and she was 22.
All right.
Wow.
Maybe it isn't that big.
Symbolic here.
Yeah, I did not put that together. Well, I didn't know those specific numbers.
I do think, though, she was married 3 years. She's probably
So she's maybe supposed to be
25.
And I will say, since the day that we met, Teresa has been at the same, if not of a higher level of maturity than me.
Yeah,
so.
she's very mature.
And when you're raising children, you notice that girls emotionally develop way faster. Like I've noticed it. It's an obvious. Like my daughter is emotionally developed, and communication. Like my boys are like nowhere near where she was when she was that age.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just my experience.
Yeah, Teresa's like an old soul. She's wise beyond her years, I think.
It took me plenty of years to get to about half as much maturity as I should have, but we balance.
So then she shoots her shot. They walk home in silence. Then she does this monologue.
She certainly does.
She's like, I saw the way you're looking at me. She's being, I don't know how he resists this, but she's like, don't lie. Like I was saying, she's like, don't lie. We're not liars like they are. I hate that you wore a football jersey to dinner, but you can F me if you turn the lights out. And he's like, how old are you? So he's also like, dang, she's younger than you. And she goes, old enough to have a marriage and to not wind up in a mental hospital. Boo.
Bam, shots fired, dude.
And then he's like, I think he's basically like, I'm married.
Yeah, he does that a lot.
Yeah. Holds up his wedding ring and she goes, so am I. And he's like, yeah, but he died. And she's like, she starts crying, hugs him, slaps him, walks away. And he's just kind of like dumbfounded.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this movie. I'm like, I don't know. There's some part of me is still very attracted to women who are just emotional like that.
Yeah.
It's very, and this is an incredible performance. She won Best Actress for it.
Oh, okay, cool.
She slipped and fell on the stairs when going up to accept the award.
She did? Yeah. Oh, my God. Did you get hurt?
No, Hugh Jackman ran to her.
Oh, wow.
Assistance.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. I watched that happen. That was really funny,
I used to watch the Oscars every year.
Me too, man. I don't know. It's been a couple. It's been 5 or 6 years. I don't know. Sort of lost interest in that whole thing. But
yeah, in my notes I wrote, she slaps him and goes inside. I'm enraptured.
Yeah, she won Best Supporting Actress, and Christoph Waltz won for Inglourious Basterds.
Yes, this is a great year for movies.
Which also is a kind of a trend. If you go back over the Oscars, it's always a younger actress wins supporting actress, and an older male wins the supporting actor role.
Well, she won Best Actress, period.
It was supporting.
No, it wasn't.
You don't think it wasn't?
Dude, she's a lead in the film.
Yeah, I think she's best.
She's the lead?
Yeah.
Yeah, her and him, for sure.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, but isn't there
They're
just
on the poster?
one lead?
No, there's multiple
There's always
leads.
a male and a female lead.
Okay.
Well, or unless there's no
do you
males or
have that
females.
in writing in front of you?
I'll bet you $9,000.
No, I'm not going to bet monetarily, but
No betting.
I am going to hear.
Check it out. Go for it. Robert De Niro was nominated for Best Supporting Actor
Okay.
because he's not the lead. He's not making out with Jennifer Lawrence at the end of the movie.
All right. Continue the story while I do my research. What are we doing?
No problem, buddy. He goes home. There's this scene of him kind of like rolling around on the bed, and you can tell he's like, what's up with this babe has driven him mad. And so he starts looking for his wedding videotape, which this is, like I said, this plot has changed a lot from the novel, but that's a thing that's brought over is like the wedding tape thing. And it's never really resolved here, but he's freaking out.
Tony is correct.
His mom
Jimmy
is
was wrong. Best performance by an actress in a leading role.
Yeah.
That's correct.
It's okay, man. Just do better in the future. But he's like looking for his wedding tape. His mom's helping him. De Niro's sitting in the bed. He's great in this movie. There's this scene where he's sitting there and he's like, what's going on? And he's kind of like shaking his knees. He also wears old school pajamas, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to get a pair of those. Start wearing like the striped PJs around the house. Sleeping cap, little candle on a dish.
I can't
Nice.
wear it.
Me doing my bed checks at the sober house.
That's funny. That's funny. Scare
Please
people.
do that. I will buy that, dude. Send me the Amazon link. I promise you I will pay for that.
If I do that, I'm going to be visited by 3 ghosts.
Yes,
man.
you are. Yeah, I can't wear pajamas, dude. Though it's fun having pajamas for your babies, though. We have all sorts of
I know.
Do they have the
babies.
butt flap?
No.
You got to
I
bring
don't
back
think
the
they
butt
do
flap.
those anymore.
What was that?
No.
Why is the butt flap
The
gone?
butt flap is if you're potty trained. You can't change a diaper through the flap.
yeah.
True.
You need
Good
the flap through the thing. But no, we have all these outfits that are like matching tops and bottoms, but their bottoms are shorts and the tops are collared short sleeve shirts. So they kind of look like golfers from the 90s, you know?
Yeah.
But with like bluey, you know, or whatever. Or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. My favorite, my son Bodie wears this onesie that's it's long, you know, pants and whatever with a zipper. That's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't think I've ever seen anything cuter in my fucking life. It is unbelievable. It's every time it breaks me. I can't take it.
Yeah, I think one of the fun things about having children has got to be dressing them up in
Right.
fun outfits.
Well, Teresa always notes on the weekends that I specifically dress the boys on the weekends. She even says like, "Hey, do you want to get them dressed? You enjoy it so much." I love dressing little dudes like they're grown-ups.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
Putting
very funny.
like pants and like collared shirts on them. Like a lot of people put like race car shirts and like little short thingies on them, and so they look like little kids. I want them to look like they're going to read a book and have a cigar or something like that. It's just
But they're so cute the way you dress them. Yeah. So cute. They're not just slap the onesie on them. And,
dude. It's so much fun to dress.
When you see like a little boy in dress shoes and like suspenders.
We've got an outfit like that for the
So
boys.
funny.
Yeah.
I did that with Zach. So cute.
Yeah.
Right now, so we have all these matching outfits, and what I'll do is I'll put the shirt for the outfit on one of the boys and the pants on the other boy.
Oh, that's drip. Very cool. So Pat is basically losing it looking for this wedding video, and we have this scene. He starts having flashbacks of the incident of finding his wife cheating on him. He can hear the song in his head, and he elbows his mom and knocks his mom to the ground, and his dad starts beating his ass. He gets him on the bed and he's punching him.
Yeah.
And Pat is scream crying. He's going, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's a brutal scene.
Yeah,
It is.
And the cop shows up.
Bradley Cooper does a really great job of this thing, which is when I was saying like someone's in a mixed state where he goes from this state of like irritation to just like abject sadness, where the mood is still elevated, but he's just going like screaming, just making a scene. And the whole neighborhood is woken up by this. They can all hear them freaking out. And
Doesn't he start his medication after that scene?
Immediately after that, he starts taking his Seroquel.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
So I have a question about Seroquel. I thought it was a sleeping medication.
It's not.
Antipsychotic.
It's an antipsychotic. It's prescribed off-label for sleeping stuff a lot.
Why is that? Because it has
makes
a
you
sedative?
sleepy. Yeah.
It does.
If you're not...
No, it makes you sleepy regardless, but
really?
But also prevents that psychosis, like that state, like freaking out and violent or whatever. Yeah.
So isn't that a pretty bad side effect if you're giving it to somebody and you're prescribing it for twice a day and they're taking this medicine at 9 a.m.?
I don't think you take it in the morning. No.
Oh, so it's just supposed to be a nighttime medicine.
Typically,
that has the residual effect.
Throughout.
Okay.
And if you're a manic person, also it would just bring you down to like a lower level like that.
Okay. Yeah, because I had only ever heard of it in the sleeping medication sense.
It's a commonly prescribed off-label for sleeping stuff because it's not narcotic.
But you're right. With the mania.
I took a bunch of it one time thinking it would get me high and felt horrible.
Really?
I just felt so non-psychotic.
Well, also with mania, you can't sleep.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be up 4 or 5 days not sleeping.
I've been there.
You need something to like, okay, time to rest.
He says he's on Abilify also, I think, which is a mood stabilizer.
Right.
I've struggled or had whatever insomnia for most of my life, adult life, and I've taken other people's medication for it, and it's always backfired. Like I've taken Seroquel for that reason, and it did not put me to sleep.
Yeah.
Trazodone.
I got a story about trazodone.
Yeah, and let's
Klonopin.
Klonopin would work, but that was like a benzo, right?
Klonopin make you feel good.
Yeah. That I think because it would just like relieve my anxiety, but there would never be like a non-narcotic one. Like the only thing that would ever really make me sleep would be like, narcotics or alcohol.
Sure.
Yeah. And I still have that today. There is a really good combination that helps you sleep that I've learned is 3 little children.
Yes, that would help a lot. I was so tired after Friday. Yeah. Oh my God.
It's nuts.
I got in bed early. I was like, oh, this is good.
But then the same kid that keeps you up, rolls. So my one son thinks that the bed, that you sleep perpendicular to the other people in the bed is how you sleep.
Okay.
So when you kick your feet in your dreams, your heel can land right in their mouth.
You should tell him it's not how it works.
We have had the conversation more than a couple times, and then this morning. So I guarantee you, it was 7 or 8 times I got kicked in the face to the point where it woke me up last night.
Oh God!
And I picked him up and moved him. Picked him up and moved him, and then maybe screamed a curse word at one point of the night. Not voluntarily, just like, what the fuck or whatever.
Yeah.
And then this morning, I'm like talking to my wife, and I'm like, yeah, dude, this last night was bad. And I was like, I can't even tell you how many times. And she was like, I think it was like 3 times. I was like, you stop right there. It was at least twice that many. 3 times that you're aware of.
I think they all do that. And because I remember Riley slept with me a couple times, and she was kicking me the sideways. Finally, I put pillows there, just.
You got to build a wall.
When you wake up, Riley, in the morning, she is never like how she went to sleep. She's usually upside down. She's off the bed. She's all over the place. Yeah.
Right.
I've been told by romantic partners that I thrash around in my sleep, and then I'll wrench the covers away from them. Not responsible for what I do, but.
Yeah, you can't be held responsible for those types of behavior.
This next scene, Tiffany, he's out running, and Tiffany runs by him the opposite direction, and he just goes, "Hey!"
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
She's so cool.
Yeah, she's
and
great.
And then she's chasing him, and she's like, "What's wrong? Did our little conversation last night get you upset?" And she's like grinning. She's heard about, it would seem she's probably heard about the cops coming to his house. And he's mad that she's chasing him. He gets mad, and he spits on the ground, and then she's like, What are you doing? And she spits too. It's so cute.
Yeah.
But she's chasing him. I wrote, this is literally what it takes for me to realize a girl likes me a lot of the time. Is they have to literally be
in your face about
chasing me, yeah. Mm. And he calls her a big slut.
Well, you're certainly not going to reach out to them, apparently.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I'm shy. I'm bashful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bashful. Okay.
When I go to the strip club, I just hand the dancer an envelope of ones. I'm too scared to throw the money.
You can't even make it rain, dude.
That's a tweet from ASAP Yams, R.I.P. Says too bashful, too shy to throw my money.
So you like an aggressive woman like her in the movie?
It's just been the way that my life has gone. The girls that I end up with are always, they pursue me because I'm too shy and bashful. I'm scared of rejection, but I'm working on it. But he calls her a big slut. And she says, I was a big slut, but I'm not anymore. But there's always going to be a part of me that's messy and dirty, and I like that. Can you say the same? And he's like, damn, maybe I can't. And it cuts to him talking to Patel, and he tells Patel that he hates his illness and wants to control it. Also, there's a scene earlier that has some recovery language where he says, I'm ready to take responsibility for my side of the street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pat says,
yeah. I noticed that. And he repeats what she says to Patel.
Yeah.
He says that she's happy with all her dark sides and stuff like that.
And Patel's like, well, can you say that about yourself? And he's like, what, you mean all my sad shit? No, like I hate my illness. I want to control it. Mm. And Patel kind of manipulates him into being nice to Tiffany. He's like, if you're nice to her, maybe word will reach Nikki. And she starts chasing him again, and she clarifies something. She says, well, I just want to be friends, she tells him. And then he asks her to dinner, and she goes, pick me up at 7.
Yeah.
And she shows up. She's got the cross necklace on. She's looking good.
Lace.
He gets a bowl of Raisin Bran. She
Yeah.
gets tea.
Why'd you get tea? Because you got Raisin Bran?
Yeah, because he wants it to be clear that this is not a date.
Yeah.
And so then...
he asked her to dinner.
Yeah.
It's kind of double meaning there.
He's fighting his attraction to her.
Yeah.
Well, he's still married.
Yeah, but come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and it comes around. So they do that. They do the Raisin Bran, and then they go.
This is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Is
okay.
He's like, so how did you lose your job? And she starts kind of like staring him in the eyes and being like, I had sex with everyone in the office. Mm-hmm. and he's getting like kind of aroused by this, and he's like, we don't have to talk about it. How many were there? and were there any women? And she's like, yes, there's like older women would make me sit on their lap. And he's going like,
that's a good scene.
That is really funny because, his ex never let him,
Yeah. And he goes, and she goes, I don't mind talking about it. And he goes, you don't, do you? And, he's getting kind of like horned up about this. But then, she says something about like, you and I are similar, and he gets upset. He's like, what? You're not like me. And she goes, this is like a line that she repeats later in the movie. She goes, oh my God, you're killing me. And she sweeps everything off the table. And she goes,
love that. That's great.
Because I'm the crazy girl. And she's screaming, ha ha ha, and just doing this whole thing. And I'm like, I'm in love with you. You're perfect.
I know. I love that scene. That's one of my favorites. I used to break stuff too. So I can relate.
This wild behavior. Yeah. And they end up like outside this movie theater, and he's trying to calm her down, and she starts screaming at him. And
the officer shows up, right?
Yeah. She has this monologue where she goes, you are afraid to be alive. You're afraid to live. You're a hypocrite. You're a conformist. You're a liar. I opened up to you and you judged me. You are an asshole. And he's like, calm down, calm down. She's
that was good.
Stop harassing me. You're harassing me. And gets these bystanders get involved. The song starts playing. It goes to this fisheye thing. He's melting down, basically.
That fisheye is very subtly effective.
Yeah.
I think that was a great, subtle effect that they used there. I like that.
Yeah, you can feel him kind of like, oh my God, what's going on?
Sometimes that effect gets used too much, but
sure,
that was well done, I thought.
And it is, to be fair to him, she is causing this ruckus.
Oh man, dude, she starts it, and then when the cop shows up, she starts blaming,
gets him out of it.
Keep waiting for the crowd in that to be like, hey, bitch, what are you talking about? But they don't jump back at her because she's like very obviously, flip-flopping around. It's funny.
And she helps him breathe. He's like, she knows exactly what's going on with him also. She goes, forget about the song.
There's a moment where she looks at him and you can tell she realizes the song's playing in his head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool.
They never come out and say it, but when you read about it, that she's borderline personality.
I think she is.
Yeah, I think so too. Because to be able to flip like she does to, I love you, I hate you, you're terrible, I love you,
He's become her favorite person, which is the thing with borderlines.
Yes.
And then she splits, which is what they call, you go from idealizing somebody to devaluing them very quickly.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I love you so much. And then you're like,
I hate you.
I hate you so much.
Yeah, I think she is. They never come out and say it in the movie, but
it would seem that way. And she also hints at the fact that there were issues between her and her husband prior to that.
Right.
To things. And the fact also like promiscuity is common
big
with borderlines. Because they're seeking, they have an unstable sense of self, and they're like seeking affirmation from others. I'm very big into BPD. I'm into the dialectical behavioral therapy, created by Marshall Linehan.
Right. Yeah, that's because they're the hardest to treat, but that does treat them. Yeah, they're very hard. When you get one of those, it's like, oh my God, So I think, but like you said, that what is it? Didactic therapy.
Dialectical behavioral therapy.
Yes, that's what it is. I never did that one, but
I'm super into DBT.
Are you?
The way that it started was this lady, Marshall Linehan, is treating these women, and they have substance abuse problems. They're suicidal. They have these super unstable relationships. They end up with abusive men and stuff like this. And there's two general schools of thought in therapy. There's change, where it's like, okay, we're going to help you change and work toward a goal. And there's acceptance. And with these women, what she noticed, I've heard the speech that she gives about this, but she was like, you would come to them and say, okay, so let's try and change. And they would go like, you hate me, you're rejecting me, you're supposed to be my therapist, why don't you like me the way that I am? And then you go, okay, geez, all right, then let's work on accepting how you are. And they're like, but I fucking hate myself, I'm a piece of shit.
Right.
And so she was like, all right, what we need to do is get you out of these two extremes. And that's what the the philosophical idea of a dialectic is, like resolving these two extremes.
Never studied that. It's always been cool. CBT and. You want
to hear something funny?
Yeah.
There is a thing in plumbing and construction.
Dialectic?
Yeah. Dialectic unions.
And it's two separate extremes that you do?
Well, you can't join separate metals or electrolysis occurs. Corrosion occurs. You can't join copper and galvanized. You have to use a dialectic union.
Oh, that must be where they got that from.
I'm sitting here listening to that word. I'm like, holy fuck.
It's all about this idea of resolving these two, like finding a way to integrate your personality so that you're not going between these extremes.
I had a friend that did it. It was so effective. Big time.
I think DBT is helpful for almost anybody, even if you're not like meeting the clinical threshold for having borderline. Like our society encourages you to be vacillating between extremes all the time. And I think like
it's got to be, but it's like a specialty to do that kind of therapy. Really, you have to study it.
Well,
it is.
I noticed that as in my personal life, where in the way that my career is, or the way that I handle my career, I have to be kind of an aggressive personality. I have to be aggressive. I have to, deal with aggressive situations. And then as soon as I get home, I have to put all that aside, and I have to like come in and I have to be mild mannered, and I have to deal with aggression from children and
kicking you in the face
in an accepting way, where both of those behaviors, like my behavior at work will negatively affect my family. But if I behave the way I behave with my family at work, it would negatively affect my career.
Yeah.
So I have to be two extremely different people. You have to go from like being a lion to being like a pup, like instantaneously. And it's tough, and it'll cause arguments.
Sure.
And I've noted, and you're
bringing the wrong energy into one space.
My wife and I have had that conversation, and I've had to apologize. Been like I'm in this mode all day long, and it's the only way that I can thrive, or that I've learned how to thrive in my business, is by being like aggressive and being,
But you need to decompress. Like, don't you come home and take a shower first?
Something.
And stuff.
You gotta come. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do that. I go in the back room. I shower. I poop. I read or watch my phone for just anything. And like my boss had a real good saying. He told me this years ago. He's like, imagine when you take your boots off that you're becoming a different human being.
That's good. Some kind of ritual.
I like that. Exactly. I'm a different person when I'm at work completely.
Yeah, you have to be. I mean,
like
it's interesting.
Dealing with addicts and alcoholics all day long. It's like kicking people out because they're smelling like a blunt, and all kind of, I have to be very stern with people.
Actually, I was there, and there was a girl falling asleep. And
nodding out or freak. Oh, I had this girl came in with the meth mouth, all twisted and eyes, and oh no, I'm just tired, and I'm like, okay, you need to leave now.
You look incredibly tweaked out for a tired person.
But yet I have that assertiveness, but I can't carry that on in other areas of my life,
Yeah. I've had to kick people out of the halfway house, and that's an interesting thing also, is because like we all live together. Or not following other rules. And it's like we have this friendly dynamic because we live together, and because I'm part of what I view my role there as is being welcoming and trying to get people integrated into this new sober social circle.
Yeah.
And then I have to be like, all right, you need to pack your stuff and you have to be out of here in the next hour.
Yep. Yeah. And then to people who have nowhere to go.
Sometimes, yeah.
I took a guy to the Waffle House on Hillsborough one time just because he had nowhere else to go.
Yeah, I went and dropped a guy off behind Bravo Supermarket.
It was like 11 p.m. and I was
funny though. He was like, "I'm back, bitches!" Like all the other guys that had tents back there. Damn, you ain't make it, huh?
Oh, that is fucked up, dude.
But Pat has this meltdown. The cop shows up, and Tiffany lies and is like, "It's my fault. I started." There's this hilarious thing where the cop goes, "You're Tommy's widow, aren't you?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm Tommy's crazy whore widow, minus the whore thing mostly," and cross her finger. And he's like, "You're a funny girl. You want to get a drink sometime?"
Like a creep with his mouth all crooked.
The cop has learned that.
Yeah.
He's heard tell of her getting around, and he's basically like, "I'm gonna try and have sex with this girl."
Yeah, of course.
And she just goes and like walks away. And the cop's like, what did I do?
Very gross move. Up to that point, it's sort of questionable whether we like the cop or not. I think after that point, we're like, this guy's gross.
He's just trying to get some action.
You understand? I mean,
I think it's interesting that he's at the dance competition later.
Yeah. Well, he's a part of the family now.
Sure. But Pat comes home. This is a very relatable mental health thing. Pat's parents are concerned because he's in a good mood. Mm-hmm. His dad's like, what's going on?
Why is everything good? Yeah.
And it's because he thinks that he's going to be able to get this letter to Tiffany, basically.
They've made the deal, right?
Tiffany says, well, they haven't made the deal yet, but Tiffany's like, I could give a letter to Nikki for you. She hasn't yet put this condition on it that he has to do the dance thing. But he goes looking for Tiffany with the letter, and her parents are like, get away from here. You're another creep. She's been getting around so much that they've just had men knocking on the door. And this guy shows up while Pat's talking to him. This guy's really out of line. It's just like, hey, what's going on? I'm here to see Tiffany.
Yeah.
I've called her. I've texted her. She hasn't responded. And Pat gives the guy a speech. He's like, some girls have a broken wing, but this wing is being mended. She's a sweet girl. She's artistic. Come here. Let me walk you to your car. And he grabs the guy and let's just pulling the guy to his car. And Tiffany's listening from inside the house to all this. And we see it on her face.
Yeah.
She's kind of like,
well, but you hear that other
Pat
guy
likes me.
in that scene when the camera's on her. You hear that other dude say, she just texted me.
yeah.
And Bradley touches on that.
So you encouraging these guys?
Yeah. Or do you
call them when you get lonely?
Yeah.
She's like, Jordy? Which this guy's a nebbish.
Yeah.
He was hitting out of his weight class hooking up with her. But so then she tells him, like, look, I'll give Nikki this letter, but you have to do this dance competition with me at the George Washington Hotel.
Yeah.
So just to interject real quick. So, when I had to realize that I was self-medicating, for my mental illness, I started going to the Fred Astaire dance place.
Really?
Yes. Because I
funny.
thought I need something, I'm newly not using, alcohol or drugs. What am I doing with myself? So yeah, I started going there and I met this younger guy who was kind of like clean, but he didn't go to any like support groups, let's say, but he was clean. So we had a lot to talk about and we kept practicing this one dance. I said, okay, I want to go do this talent show at this clubhouse, let's say.
Yeah.
Will you go with me? And because we had, that bond about, recovery and stuff. And yeah, we did. We practiced and he had never been into a clubhouse. And he's like, but we did our dance. We didn't win. But that was the first time I met Evelyn.
Oh, nice.
She was singing. Evelyn has a good singing voice. But yeah, so I had another like familiar thing to this movie was that shortly after it came out,
it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
That's super relatable.
I know, and he didn't stay clean, and he ended up leaving the job that he had. But he was cool. Yeah, and I just said, "Will you do this with me?" I don't know why it was important for me to go to do this dance competition or talent show, but yeah.
Well, recently there was a similar competition.
I heard American Idol thing.
Yeah. And our co-host here, dude, took home the gold.
You did?
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
You did?
It was
Did you-
victorious.
It was? Did you go see him? I wish I would have known.
Yeah. So on our last week's episode, it'll be out next week. Tony recreated the song that he sang.
Oh, nice. I can't wait to hear it.
Personalized
And so you
version of
won
Wrecking
the
Ball.
American Idol.
I did.
Wow.
By popular vote.
That is so cool.
great.
Isn't that
was
funny?
nice.
Like early in recovery, it's like your creativity all just starts spewing out of you.
Here's
you know?
the thing. As with the dance competition in this movie, I attached a bunch of significance to this because I was trying to do it in order to win over a young lady.
Okay.
And I then have, to this point, failed to take the next step in trying to convert on that success. So
So it hasn't happened yet.
no,
Basically,
so the
all
story
of
is
the
still
momentum from
being
the
told.
victory is gone. He's lost all of his momentum.
I wouldn't say
He hasn't
that.
lost.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like there was a moment to seize, and now if you win this particular person's heart, you're gonna have to gain some momentum again.
Definitely.
I
need to do another
I had
stunt.
a crush on my
Basically,
dance
it was all
teacher.
for nothing.
So.
Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this came up last week, but there's a pretty extensive study that compared different interventions for depression that found that there's various physical activities that beat SSRIs in terms of people's self-reported mood after doing them. And the number one thing that outranked SSRIs and also all these other exercises was dancing.
Oh, maybe that's why I was so drawn to it.
I think dancing is it's you get the physical endorphins from the movement, but it's also like doing it with someone else, like this shared. The music is bringing you together. Yeah. You're letting your body move to the music.
You have that shared thing. Yeah. And this guy, he was like trying to stay clean, and I'm trying to stay sober. So,
well, when during the week, or weekdays, or even the week in the evenings, whenever I'm watching all three children, one of my favorite pastimes is to put on a record with all three kids. And I will do basically like a singing and dancing routine with them to the song.
That's so
like a
fun.
Very high energy
family band, dude. You're gonna do the new Jackson 5.
I pick them
dance
up
party.
And we spin around, and my daughter will like kind of. She's a little bit more developed or whatever, so she'll like sing with me, and that's like what we do for fun. We were doing it this morning actually.
Oh, God,
they love music.
Yeah, we were doing. There's this really cool. I sent you a video of it. It's a Triple J. It's a Fontaine's DC version.
Yeah.
We did that song this morning.
That's a good song.
It's
they did a great job with that. I checked out a bunch of their stuff.
And we did Turnstile yesterday. We did the whole new record actually, but just the first song, Never Enough. And it was such a fun experience that I immediately got on my phone afterwards and found the Turnstile tour. And Teresa and I are going to go see them in Orlando.
Oh, very cool.
What? That's so cool.
October, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Their new record is a piece of art.
What's the band?
It's called Turnstile.
Turnstile.
They used to be like when they first came out, they were like post-hardcore Baltimore kind of like punk band. But this last record is a really interesting mix
I'll have to check them out.
Of like the hardcore, but also like kind of like the Police or even like the Talking Heads a little bit, like a pop. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
It's very reverby vocals. Sounds like Band of Horses.
Yeah, Band of Horses is a good example of. Yeah,
I love punk. That was my jam.
Yeah,
the day.
The Turnstile this new record's amazing, and there's a whole visual component too. But get off subject. So
they start practicing. Tiffany has this line that I sent to you guys. She says, "I'm not that great of a dancer, but who cares? It's therapy and it's fun."
Yeah.
Yes.
I miss dancing.
Absolutely.
I used to go out dancing all the time in New Orleans, and I don't get to do it anymore.
It was my therapy for sure in early recovery.
One of my
stepmother's like, "Don't spend all your money on those lessons,"
Whatever. One of my favorite filmmaking sort of storytelling aspects of this movie is choosing North Country Fair with Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan as the soundtrack for the dancing montage.
Yeah.
I thought that was super interesting because that's such a mild song, and what they're doing is such a high energy thing. Mm-hmm. It's like a juxtaposition or whatever. It's like the opposite of what you imagine that they're listening or dancing to. Like, it's not a danceable song at all.
No.
But it's a super famous song, and it's a really cool version of it too, the Johnny Cash part, but.
And she's trying to get Pat to understand emotion.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is the point where she tells him the story of how Tommy died, that he had gone to Victoria's Secret to try to spice things up with her because she wasn't interested in sex, then helped someone with a flat tire and was killed.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's a feeling. But yeah, they have this dance montage.
Gotta be careful on the highway doing that, man.
I swear. Oh my God.
It's crazy how many people get hurt. It's really unfortunate.
Very sad, especially trying to do something nice,
Yeah.
But the dance montage ends where he sees her changing, and he almost sees her boobs, and then he runs off angrily. He's like, just trying to run his way through the lust.
Dude, almost sees her boobs.
And then he's like, he's just running with the garbage bag.
Wait, but how? I missed that. Did they almost?
He sees her changing, and he sees her like bare back, basically.
Yeah, she's like in the other room.
I understand.
Yeah. You can see it in the mirror.
Yeah. Okay.
He's like, damn it.
Yeah.
He's struggling to control himself. Danny shows up to the dance studio, and he's like, Pat's been writing to me about you. And she's like, oh, really? What has he been saying? And to Pat, he's like, she's fine.
Yeah. And he starts dancing with her, and he starts getting a little handsy with her.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll notice the move that Danny encourages her to do. He's like, start working with your hips a little bit. They do in the dance later. Sure, she puts her hands up and turns around.
That was
circle,
super intentional. I felt like that was.
Yeah. But Pat gets defensive. He's like, whoa, get your hands off Tiffany. He likes Tiffany. And Danny's great character.
Yeah.
It is a shame about Chris Tucker.
Well, yeah. I mean,
he's on the Epstein flight logs like 60 times.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh.
I didn't know
Great
that.
actor, but
I thought you were just talking about the trajectory of his career.
Yeah.
I think he's done all right for himself, but he's,
What are you gonna do?
wrapped up in some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, his dad, Robert De Niro, kind of comes and sits on Pat's bed, and he's crying a little bit, and he's like, "I want to spend time with you," and we realize though he's kind of manipulating him because we haven't touched on this. His dad has these OCD superstitions about the Eagles.
Big time.
He needs to have his remotes arranged a particular way. He has this handkerchief that he kind of clutches.
He wears the same sweater.
Mm-hmm.
We see that there's some mental illness in the family.
He's convinced that his son being there or around is positive for the
Eagles, exactly. And so he wants,
which all of his happiness and his financial stability is hinged on the Eagles' performance.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so he wants Pat to go to this game with his brother, but he and Tiffany have something to do on Sunday. And he goes to Tiffany. He's like, I need to do something on Sunday. She's like, you committed to me. You're supposed to be there. But she's like, Nikki replied to your letter. And she gives him the letter. And in the letter, Nikki's basically like, oh, well, I'm glad that you're doing well. I'm glad to hear about your motto, which is Excelsior. He keeps saying Excelsior.
Yeah.
But if it's me reading the signs, key phrase,
Got to read those signs.
I need to see something more. And Tiffany says the dance can be the sign to show Nikki that he's doing well, which is crazy manipulation. Because whose wife is going to be like, oh, I see him dancing really sensually with this other person that he clearly has great chemistry with, and it's like, all right, I'm going to come back. I don't know. But they go to the football game. And a fight breaks out because Dr. Patel shows up in this huge bus full of other Asian and South Asian people.
The Asian invasion.
Yes.
Yeah. And these racist guys come by and are like, boo, go back to your country. They're not doing Eagle spirit. They're being racist. And Pat defends Dr. Patel and his brother and gets grabbed by the cops.
I honestly kind of had a bone to pick with this scene because Eagles fans are not fighting each other at those things. I mean, people are fighting, but Eagles fans aren't hating on. That's like they just grabbed that. I feel like I don't think
because there's so many different ethnicities.
Yeah, dude, that's not a. I mean, there are ignorant racist people in Philadelphia, but the Eagles game isn't where that kind of shit's happening. The Eagles and Giants fans are going at it like they almost should have had the Asian people be Giants fans, and that would attract a little bit better.
But I loved when I saw Dr. Patel in that scene with his makeup on. That was so awesome.
And then the conversations about. Well, our offensive line's got to do this, and like it's prophecy. These people talk about football like it's scripture.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
And it's we need to do this, we need to do that. They talk like they think they're on the team.
It's very accurate. That's how those those communities talk to one another.
For sure,
take it very, very seriously. Yeah.
But Dr. Patel, as I was saying, you're not supposed to be like chilling that hard with your clients outside of work.
Yeah, drinking and.
No, but it was kind of an accident.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a boundary crossing. It becomes a boundary violation when he goes to his house.
Yeah, he's with his brother there.
Yeah.
So his dad's had him go with his brother there because he thinks it's going to be good. And we kind of jumped over it, but I think it's important to note that his brother is doing much better in life.
And kind of rubs it in his face.
There's this whole
His brother's played by Shea Wiggum. Great actor.
I love that guy. The whole scene is... I mean, you lost your house. I'm getting a new house.
I'm getting
you lost
engaged.
your wife. I'm getting engaged. You don't have a fucking job. I'm really good at the firm. That's a real good way in a movie. That's a really fast way to show that someone is a very careerist-minded person when they work at a firm. The word firm, instead of like the company or my job, they say the firm because it could be legal. It could be financial. It doesn't have, but it's just that word. I like how that sort of expedites that this person's kind of, douchey or whatever.
Yeah,
And
arrogant.
just that he's I don't know if they directly reference this in the movie, but his brother's picture is up on the wall and Pat's picture is down on this table, and it's almost like Pat died.
Yeah. Well, no,
Yeah.
it totally is, because throughout the movie, the pictures are always like that. And then one of the last scenes of the movie, Robert De Niro's
He's putting Pat's picture.
Yeah,
yeah,
hanging
he
on.
earned his spot back up there.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty sweet. Yeah. All right,
That's when I'm tearing up. But they come back from this game. They're with Dr.
We got a
Patel.
message. He was crying this morning.
Well, I'd love to cry, so I'd rewind the parts that made me cry and then cry more. But I was sitting at the table eating my giant chicken feast and like, so beautiful.
Chicken feast.
Yeah.
But the dad stops that when the brother's going. He's like, stop that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And so anyway, they get in the big fight because, Bradley Cooper is doing a good job of staying out of the fight.
I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to fight.
But then someone, they hurt his brother and he snaps and he goes in hard and he is whooping ass.
He's very strong.
Yeah, he's immediately the most superior fighter out there. Like, he's just crushing it.
He's in good shape. Dude, he's been doing calisthenics.
Gets arrested, lets everybody down.
And when they get home, his dad, De Niro's like, "You're a loser." And he blames him for the Eagles losing also,
which is ridiculous
because he had bet a ton of money on this Eagles game. I think he bet basically all his money on that game.
That's what they said. They said that he was saving money to start a restaurant.
Was it Frankie?
Randy.
Yeah. And so they're saving money to start the restaurant, and he took all of the investment money and was trying to double up real quick.
And so in the middle of him screaming, calling him a loser, Tiffany barges in.
Yes.
This is kind of her introduction to the family. And the dad is like, you're to blame for the bad juju. And she goes through this thing where she's like, when Pat was with me, we beat the Giants.
Yeah.
When Pat was, or not the Giants, but when Pat was with me, we beat them this, and the Phillies won this.
Seahawks, we crushed them. And she also references other sports. She's going across. These just like him being with me has been good for Philadelphia sports. She's done like a massive amount of research.
And she's like, what's the state motto of New York? Is Excelsior.
And everybody in the house is super engaged. When she says Excelsior, everyone goes, what? Everyone like throws up their hands. Like, everyone's like really into this thing. Hey, dude, I thought that was super funny. Like, this is my favorite.
She's extremely
scene for her.
charismatic.
Yeah, she's got everybody. Just what a great scene, dude. This is my favorite scene in the movie.
And she cracks a brewski.
Yeah.
And she takes a sip and she's
And,
like,
like,
I
looking
did my
around all
research.
cool.
Yeah. She's so cool.
She is.
Cool.
So then she's like, let's do another bet, basically. And he's like, next week? And she's like, no, against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And Randy's like, they're like, that's his team. And she goes, I know who his team is.
But then he realizes the Cowboys are trash and that he'll lose that bet. And that's why he wants the parlay to get the dance involved.
Yes.
And he asks all these questions like,
How do they score the dance competition?
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So they make this parlay. Basically, the Eagles have to win, and Pat and Tiffany have to score at least a 5 at the dance contest. And Patel goes, that is very manic indeed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
Pat freaks out. He's like, I don't want to do this. And he leaves. He's like, I don't want it. I'm not even going to dance. And Tiffany is talking to his parents, and she's like, we have to tell him that Nikki's going to be there. His parents are just going along with this crazy manipulation. But Tiffany also in this conversation keeps saying, if it's me reading the signs.
The mom's a little hesitant. The mom's hesitant.
Mom wants them to stop
dad
this
is
stuff.
gas pedal.
Well,
the
it's a
whole
lot
time.
writing on it, so.
Yeah.
You can tell the mom is like, oh my gosh, these crazy men. I love them, but they're making my life wild. And Pat notices that the phrase that Tiffany keeps saying, if it's me reading the signs, is also in the letter that was supposedly written by Nikki.
Right.
So that jogs something in his head. But yeah, Dolores, another great moment is Dolores, the mom, asks Tiffany, and after Tiffany's like, we have to tell him Nikki's going to be there, she's like, aren't you nervous to be lying? And she just goes, no. A little. But Pat shows up to rehearse. So something's clicked for him where he's like, I'm going to do this. We're going to do this dance contest. And the next scene, they're at the hotel. The dancers are really good.
Yeah.
They're seeing their competition.
Yeah.
And these guys I love
They're like professionals. It looks like
Yeah.
a Dancing with the Stars type
It
thing.
does, right?
The outfits are
That's how
intense.
those dance contests are, though. I
Yeah, for
learned
sure.
that when I started taking the lessons.
Get real serious
Oh
about
my
it, huh?
God, and the outfits and everything.
the male dancers all do this face where they're like,
Casanova face. Yeah, there you
it's
go.
very funny. They look like a specific emoji that I'll send you later. Like, look how good I am at dancing.
That one's getting overlaid for sure.
Yeah, and Randy is like, oh my God. Randy's cracking up laughing. He's like, look at these dancers. He's certain that they're going to lose. So they're Robert De
he's
Niro
loving
and them are watching the game in the lobby. Meanwhile, the dance competition's happening upstairs. So it's like, all right, the Eagles need to win and they need to do this thing. Pat and Tiffany are walking through the hotel holding hands, but then they separate for a second, and Tiffany sees Nikki coming in with Veronica and Ronnie. So Nikki's actually there.
What a fucking bad thing to do.
Yes.
Yes.
Like at this point, Julia Stiles is not like our favorite character or whatever.
Veronica. She's named Veronica and her husband's named Ronnie, which is hilarious.
Yeah. But at the same time, I didn't really have a reason to dislike her until now. Mm-hmm. Like now you're like, what are you fucking doing? That's insane. That's like, seemed pretty destructive.
Sabotage, yeah.
Sabotage. Perfect word. Yeah.
So then you can understand why when she gets off the elevator, Tiffany goes, "You're killing me. You're killing me." This is this kind of frequent refrain for her that she said this earlier to Pat. And incredible line delivery. She's like just so upset.
Yeah, that is actually very good.
And she has this kind of like angry, sad walk to the bar and just gets a giant glass of vodka.
And reverts back to her old behavior, flirting.
Starts flirting with this guy in a tux.
Who's a lawyer. A litigator, actually.
Fucking loser.
Yeah.
Pat's way cooler, dude.
Oh, big time, dude.
I love that Pat lives with his parents and
runs with the trash
I don't know
bag.
if he's working. Probably not.
I don't think he has a job now.
No.
But he has love, and that's what's important in life.
So we get the dance.
Yeah, they see these other dancers who just crush it and get like a 7.3, and they're like,
So
oh my God.
it's funny. I like how she starts flirting with this guy, and you start getting some real vibes. And Bradley Cooper wastes like zero time. Like they really don't like it. You think it's going to become maybe a thing a little bit, and immediately it's time to dance. Like Bradley Cooper goes over there and they call them up, and he's just like, they just brush it off.
She says this thing to him. She goes, "I used to think you were the best thing that ever happened to me, but now I think you might be the worst thing, and I'm sorry that I ever met you." And he's like, "I don't care."
Which is also, and I noted this. I didn't write it down, but I did note this. This is a little bit of a crossover from your original choice because Marla Singer says to him, "Tyler, you're the worst thing that ever happened to me." Right before she pushes him he pushes her on the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite lines in that movie.
And it is
It's a very Marla thing to say.
for sure. Tiffany has Marla vibes. They're similar.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
He does.
But they're
Tough girl thing.
And it is also, she has no reason to be upset with Pat at this moment. There's no reason for her to say that. She's just freaking out because Nikki is there and because she's pre-assuming this rejection.
Yeah,
basically. Yeah. She's fallen in love with him, and then she sees that his ex-wife is there, and this is very borderline personality behavior. That trips a switch in her head where she's like, "Fuck you, I hate this guy now."
Right.
But he pulls her out of it. He doesn't engage with it. He's like, "We got to go dance."
Yeah.
Her outfit is hot. I'm just gonna say it. She looks wonderful.
Yeah. It is pretty intense. It's very revealing. It's very tight.
And
it's white, which she has not worn the whole movie.
I know.
Sure.
She's been in black the whole
And
movie.
those pants. No underwear.
Well, what's funny is, too, when this movie came out, was the sort of advent of people wearing activewear everywhere.
Yes.
Like people dress like that now. Like grandma's dressed like that now. It's,
But
like
they didn't
normal.
back then.
No, so that made it all, more. And the dance to me is very obviously kind of goofy, right?
sure, but you just mentioned the American Idol thing. Mm-hmm. They have a gimmick.
Yeah.
Everybody else is competing on this one level where they're
Right.
like, we're gonna try and we're gonna dance as hard as possible, and we're gonna like master this stuff, and we're competing on this level, and they're like, we're gonna do these different kinds of dances. We're gonna split it up into three things. One of them is this, so they have like an initial dance that they do, then they dance to the White Stripes.
Yeah.
And they're just not playing the same game as everybody else. They're like, we're gonna do this different thing.
Now, does the big move fail?
Yes.
Okay. Or was it never really?
He's supposed to lift her above his head.
Should not, or his face should not be in her crotch.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't. Me and Teresa were dying, bro.
That
so
failed.
That is a really well put together.
And he's trying to adjust, and it's not
you're
working.
expecting it to happen. You're expecting some spectacular thing. They really set you up for that, bro. That was good.
And the whole crowd is going, ooh.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And you see the judges write something down. But so she jumps up on him, and her crotch is in his face. And he slowly lowers her down very sensually. And the judges give their scores. Another one of my favorite moments in the movie. They average a 5, which is what they needed to do. So the other dancers are like, a lot of forwards.
Sorry for you.
Tough. Yeah. Sorry. And they go,
they're all hands in the air, loving it. That's a really good scene. That's sort of a classic kind of theme too, where your protagonist has like a motive that's different from everyone else around them, and then they're super excited at like a result that doesn't seem like that way. But that to me, that's the real like emotional high point.
And this,
there's the whole last fucking 10 minutes of the movie. There's
sure. Yeah. And this movie, this is like a very classic. It has a setup where it's like, okay, now there's these crazy stakes for this thing. It's kind of like. This isn't even a good comparison, but like dodgeball, it's like, okay, we have to learn dodgeball to save this gym.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is like, we're doing this dance thing, but it's literally the financial future of this family and all this stuff. And just like setting up this goal that these people have to achieve. And then they do it. Like there's this romantic arc through the whole movie, obviously. And then there's this thing of him trying to get back with Nikki and all this. But yeah, it has the structure of like a classic romantic comedy, but they all embrace. There's this, just such a raucous moment of everybody being happy that they beat Randy's stupid ass, and everybody embraces. And Tiffany hugs Pat and she says, "You were amazing," and she basically almost starts smooching his neck a little bit, and then he goes, "Chill, baby," and he walks away towards Nikki. And you see Tiffany's face fall, and there's this great. You can see everybody else in the family watching Tiffany.
Yeah.
Because they're all like, dang, dude, this is sad. We like Tiffany. She came in, she drank the beer, she gave the whole speech.
Dude.
They really like her.
She's great. And I think they trick, I don't know about anyone else, but as a sort of objective viewer, I got tricked a little bit. You thought that he was going to go try and reconcile. I kind of felt like
Nikki.
He was going to go ruin it, man. I was like, oh, man, because in the way that movies and stories are told anymore, you never really know if you're going to get the resolution you're looking for. And you kind of see it maybe.
Nah, man.
Yeah.
They're meant to be together. They're both so kooky.
So he goes over there and basically gives her the business, right? A little bit. Just like
so we hear this.
It's cordial.
Part of how it sets that up is we hear the start of their conversation where he says, "I've been reading all your books. I've been doing this thing and that thing. I've been working out." Like all his stuff that he was doing to try to prepare to get her back. But then he leans in to whisper to her, and you can't hear what she's saying at that point. And Tiffany walks away. She's like trying to keep it together. And then Pat comes back looking for Tiffany. And De Niro gives him this great speech where he's like, listen, when life gives you a sign, well, you got to reach out at a moment like this. If it's a sin if you don't reach back, it'll haunt you for the rest of your days like a curse. And that girl loves you. I don't know if Nikki ever did, but she doesn't love you now. Don't fuck this up. It's a great moment.
I know, chills.
It gave me goosebumps, and it's just like a dad who loves his son and wants his son to be happy, and he gives him this big hug, and then he goes out on the street. He's chasing Tiffany. Once again, they're running, but this time he's chasing after her. The dynamic is reversed, and she's like running and heels, They're
in downtown Philly, and somehow there's
nobody's out. Yeah, because it's a romance, dude. You gotta have that moment.
Cleared the street.
Anyway,
it's also Christmas time, the most romantic time of the year.
He comes back to her. He's got a letter for her.
Yeah, and she's like, "Get away from me!" And she's like, "Just give it to her yourself." But then she opens it, and he's like, "Just read it. You never have to talk to me." And she's like, "Dear Tiffany." This was the part that I rewound like 9 times last night because her performance reading the letter. She's like, "Dear Tiffany," and she looks at him and she goes, "I know you wrote the letter." And then she looks at him like a kid that got caught doing something bad, She's like,
Yeah, I picked up on that. That was good.
And then she continues reading, but he interrupts her and he gives the speech. He just reads himself. He goes, "The only way you can meet my crazy was by doing something crazy yourself. Thank you. I love you. I knew it the minute I met you." I'm sorry it took so long for me to catch up. I just got stuck. And she's like, you let me lie to you for a week? And he's like, I thought it was romantic. And she's looking at him like this. And she's like,
it is, yeah.
She's like, you love me? He's like, yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then she goes,
that's a good one.
Okay. And they start kissing. I'm like, yeah. I love romance movies.
I do too. That's why when I told you this, and I'm like, well, it's kind of corny, but
did I tell you, or no? Maybe I told Teresa when you and I were talking about this, and you had mentioned that I had just listened to another podcast. He does another podcast where they spoil movies for each other.
Okay. What's it called?
Spoiler Brats.
Spoiler Brats
with John W.
Waterman.
And they did Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, I love
and
that.
And he's going on and on. He's spoiling it for John. And he is like a giddy little schoolgirl in this. And it is the most, it's probably my favorite episode of his other podcast, just because he is like smitten by the emotional nature of some of the scenes.
I'm a lover. I'm a romantic guy.
And he's not ashamed, which is great.
I love that's cool. Those kind of movies, I love those. Oh my God.
For sure. And when they have a happy ending, it just gets me right in my feels. But it ends with this scene of them all in the house together, enjoying. I think they're about to watch a playoff game.
She's sitting on his lap, right?
Well, she looks at him from across the room. But Pat has this line that, again, made me get teary, where he goes, Sundays are my favorite day again.
Yeah.
I think of everything everyone did for me, and I'm a very lucky guy. That gets me right here.
Yeah.
A lot of people
It's so sweet.
Looked out for me and done nice things for me.
Yeah.
You're one of them. Sweet guy.
I feel that love too. It's crazy to get to a point in your life where you kind of got out of a really dark thing, and there's a really cool old Mr. Rogers speech.
He's always Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, that he used to give at colleges and stuff. And he says to take 1 minute and to think about one person. Just think about one person that helped you in your life.
Yeah.
And that you wouldn't be where you are now if you hadn't have met this person, if they hadn't have stepped in, if they hadn't have helped out, and just take the time. And man, if you watch this speech and you don't cry, you're soulless. It is very, very powerful. And I always took that as like a sign to try to be somebody else's that person.
For sure.
You know what I mean? It's an interesting.
Well, you and Teresa's story too. You both were kind of crazy when you met, right? And just over time helping each other. And I mean, I never thought Teresa would turn out to be mother of the year, like she is, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
it's amazing.
We've chosen each other in some pretty important, pivotal times. We've chosen each other over ourselves and gotten each other kind of to like a really special place. So when you've been through that, and you hear it in a movie or something like that, or you see in art, it does kind of touch, a real specific and like special place in your heart.
For sure.
Yeah.
He's, this kind of like, he's a difficult guy to love and to be around.
Yeah.
But people are looking out for him and taking care of him and like trying to get him into a place of stability. And it's we don't know what's going to happen with this couple, but it ends on a positive note. She jumps in his lap. They're smooching and kissing.
Yeah, it seems like some pretty happily ever after shit.
And I love that
I
Zach is the one that told me to watch it.
Yeah, that is really cool. I didn't know that. That is
and I
awesome.
share our movie things are like a big shared
We're
thing.
We're going to have, I'm going to text him and because he comes down for the holidays.
Yeah, I think he'll be here in September.
We'll have to coincide and have Zach.
Oh, you would love that. He would love that, I think.
A lot of fun, yeah.
And he knows, like you, he knows a lot about movies.
Yeah. Sometimes we go pretty hard in the movie nerd status. Today, not so much. Today, we've kind of stayed on track. Well, we had some personal stories.
We did,
A lot of great stuff, man.
Yeah. We got some closing thoughts here. It's actually been like almost 2 hours.
Is that how long do you usually do it?
Like that, maybe less even typically actually. I like to kind of wonder are there, you thought about Fight Club. Is there any other movies that you can think of that like touch on this same kind of stuff?
Please, because now that I'm in this mode, I just need to feed the.
Well, there's this director.
David O. Russell. I've seen all this stuff. Yeah.
Why did he stop making films?
He didn't stop making movies.
What's the last thing he made? Do you know?
Amsterdam, big bomb, no good.
That was not any good.
No.
Watch that. I did not like that.
He's hit or miss. He's also a bad person.
Oh, really?
He's very, very like abusive to the cast and stuff.
Well, I thought of Fight Club first just because of the mental health issue and then how, like, the twist at the end. I mean,
yeah,
I think that was just pretty amazing. And how many of us do have like that alter ego walking around? And then with bipolar, you are sometimes like, you are two different people a lot of times. Mm-hmm. I thought of, what was the one that, oh gosh, Angelina Jolie was in.
Girl Interrupted?
Yeah, that one.
Winona Ryder. And
yeah.
I thought of that movie too.
I thought of that one, but, I've had my fair share of psych hospitals, and they were all awful.
Yeah, that was like an old school one too, right? They're like, that was like in the 60s or something. Did it take place in old one? Yeah.
Which movie?
Girl Interrupted.
Oh, yeah. I have a great T-shirt of Angelina Jolie smoking a cigarette from that movie.
But, I announced in my group that I was going to be on your podcast, and and a lot of people did not know the movie, but this guy who was probably in between the two of you, he goes, "Oh, that's the best depiction of bipolar in a movie." Yeah, and I was like, okay, I just learned something about you that you knew it.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Because there's not a lot. And, my a friend of mine said to me, "You're going to do that in a podcast? You're so brave." And I said, you know what? People need to stop thinking certain ways about mental health and the stigma and all of that.
There was a really good movie about obsessive compulsive disorder with Jack Nicholson, As Good as It Gets.
That's,
right. I love that movie.
Somebody else wanted to come on and talk about that.
That's
Greg
a great
Kinnear.
movie.
Yeah,
I love that one. I think I've seen that like 4 times.
And his relationship with
Helen Hunt.
Helen Hunt in that movie is really interesting.
Yeah,
that's a great film.
She's like, when am I going to have a normal boyfriend, to her mom? And the mom's like, that doesn't exist. They don't exist.
One of my favorite actor names of all time is in that movie. Skeet Ulrich is in that movie. That guy's first name is Skeet.
But that's a good one.
What's wrong with that? This is David O. Russell's next movie. Nicolas Cage as John Madden.
Oh, I saw the David O. Russell's doing that.
Yes.
That might be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of.
I really loved The Fighter. That was David O. Russell, right?
Yeah. Are there any other just like romantic comedies that you're a big fan of, or dramas?
I like Something About Mary. I think I've seen that like 10 times.
That's the brothers, dude. The Farrelly brothers. They're
that's like one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah.
You seen Moonstruck?
Yes.
Moonstruck.
That's
another Italian family one.
That is a good one. I've seen that many times.
Moonstruck.
Yeah, that's very
I
sweet.
like Moonstruck. I'm going to write that down.
I don't know why Something About Mary.
Is there anything about this movie, though, that you don't like? And then we're going to get to closing.
No, there isn't.
If you could talk to the director or anything like that, or
Tell him to be more of a nice guy.
Well, I think they should even go a little bit deeper into the mental health and bipolar.
Sure.
I mean, it's there, but it's kind of glossed over.
I feel like Tony may request a little bit of gratuitous nudity. If he had the
No,
No,
I think it's
not in
perfect
this
how it is.
movie. I think just talk a little bit more, about it and identify it a little more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I still, because there's not that many movies like it,
That's true.
I was looking around and Googling, and it was like this one just kept coming up number one.
Yeah.
So I think they need more movies about this, in general.
What kind of So we kind of went over all of this stuff. We really did. So we like to do, but when we close, we do a song.
Okay.
And we like to give you the shot to maybe think of it. And while you're thinking of it, of a song that you might want to choose, I want to encourage anyone that's listening. There's an email associated with the show now. If you got anything you want us to talk about or any recommendations for movies or guests or anything like that, it's called the Jimmy Spice Show @gmail.com. We like engagement. We'd love for people that are listening to kind of like poke fun at us. You can cuss me out on email. You can definitely
Don't cuss
Tony
me out. Nope.
Yeah, please cuss
I don't like
Tony
it.
out.
It's upsetting.
But yeah, it's the Jimmy Spice Show @gmail. It's just a basic Gmail. We'd love it if you hit us up. So do you have an idea for a song?
What is that one? Jagged Little Pill.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Wait, Jagged Little Pill, the song or the record? That's the record, right?
Isn't it a song too?
Is
with
it a
her?
song on the album?
Or is that just the record?
I think there's a title track on that. Jagged Little Pill.
Is there?
on the album?
Because I'm like blanking out trying to think of a song right now.
Some Alanis Morissette will work.
It is. Alanis Morissette is good. I
think we'll find some Alanis Morissette.
Okay.
Sure.
I want those pictures. I want that picture. That's so cute.
Of the boys.
Yeah.
You don't have this one?
No.
And look at the one on the bottom is me and Riley.
The first, Jagged Little Pill is a line in the song "You Learn."
Yeah.
Okay, I like that song.
She had so many hits off that.
She did.
That was crazy. Yeah, how many? There was like 9 or 10. It was almost the entire record went.
I think that song is good with the line in it. Is that what you guys do? You play a song at the end?
Yeah, well, Tony's the sound guy, so he's always getting creative with the way we open.
You do what you think with that.
Yeah, you got it. And we really appreciate you coming in. This was a great movie. I think we had a really good discussion about it.
I think so too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
It's been great.
All right, y'all, take it easy.
All right, peace.